Welcome in, everyone, to our Cracked Racquets French Open Week 1 recap. Now, a lot has happened during this first week in Paris, so to help make sense of all of the madness, Jamie McDonald and I whittled down our 8 best takes. We're going to play a little game of good take, bad take, hot take, talk about the men's and women's action. With that in mind, let's get to our topic. So, Jamie, upsets have obviously been the story of the women's singles draw at this French Open, and it really gets us thinking about what the future of this women's game is going to look like. How will the next decade of tennis unfold at these Grand Slams? And you look at all of these young players, so many of them with legitimate Grand Slam title winning potential. So, my next question for you, good take, bad take, hot take. Of the current women on the professional tour who do not have Grand Slam titles, there will be 10 of those people with titles by the end of this 2020s decade.
I think it's a good take. I think right now I could, realistically look down a list of 15 to 20 names and say, yeah, they could absolutely win one. And sure, there's going to be people who have already won a title who are going to take up some of those slots. But think about the people we talk about all the time. The people that are so dangerous, the Pliskova, the Svitolina, Mertens, Sabalenka, and then even the younger ones like a Fernandez, Yastremska, people like that. I think there's a really long list here. So I would say, yeah, I think over 10 is fine. It's ambitious, but I think it's a good take.
So you look at the amount of slam winners there have been over the past couple of decades. In the 2010s, it was, a decade filled with parity. Of course, everyone was chasing Serena Williams, but 19 women went on to win Grand Slam titles. You look in the 2 decades prior to that, 12 in the 90s, 8 in the 80s, and what that tells me is it's hard. You don't just see these decades where you're going to rack up 20, 30 Grand Slam champions. As much as we would like to see all of these players have success, and given that we're coming, out of this period where, yes, there is a transition between the Serena generation, the Sharapova generation, and this next wave of talent. Obviously, there's so many promising young players, but there are already 10 players who I consider still young enough to be competing for plenty of Grand Slam titles over these next 10 years. You look at names like Osaka, Andreescu, obviously Ashley Barty, Simona Halep. No, she didn't win this French Open, but we don't think her window is closed, and there are just so many talented players who can. Vika Azarenka, we saw what she did in New York. I'm not ready to count her out, and so given that there are already 10 Grand Slam champions, for there to be 10 more, that would mean there are 20 Grand Slam champions this decade. Do we really think the 2020s women's tennis is going to be more chaotic than the 2010s? I don't know. That's why I know there's a lot of talent, but I think there are going to be a lot of what-ifs coming out of these next 10 years.
Look, I think that's fair. When you start comparing to the 2010s, though, you got to remember that Serena was just so dominant, and I don't think there's going to be anybody who's able to take that place. Now, do these people absolutely have a crowded list? 100%, but I still think there are so many talented players on the tour. Look, we talk about it all the time. Just look at this tournament alone. As you mentioned, it is chaos. So for that reason, I think it's definitely doable, and I think you're going to see a lot of unique champions and people who have 1, 2 titles, and that's it, right? Nobody who comes out with 20 like we've seen with Serena.
Yeah, no, my question to you would be, who wins more titles, 2 players very similar age, Madison Keys or Garbine Muguruza these next 10 years?
It's got to be Muguruza. She has the proven track record, and she's just got a more transferable game. She's proven she can do it all the way through. That being said, though, I'm not sure that credits the entire take of saying that, people who have won the title are absolutely going to dominate, because we have so much young talent coming up, and people that are under the age of 20 even.
Yeah, no, Swiatek, Goff, Fernandez,
exactly.
Yastremska, you named a lot of them. We saw Yvonne, what she could do this tournament. We saw we saw Clara Tauson knock out a top seed early in the event. There are so many talented young players, so I agree with you. 10 feels like a lot. That's why I was willing to make the take. It's not a bad take, but I do think it is a hot take just because, again, there are so many current Grand Slam champions. I think they're ready to run up the tab. We haven't seen much of Ashley Barty in 2020. If I told you she wins 2 slams in 2021, I don't think anyone would be surprised, but certainly it is a competitive field right now, and that's what makes watching this women's game so enjoyable. So that's it for this take. Now, if you want to hear the rest of our thoughts on week 1 of the French Open, be sure to click on the link right on your screen. Also, be sure to check out the rest of our Cracked Racquets content, the mini break, the Great Shot podcast, all of the above, which you can find on our website, crackedrackets.com. But we hope you enjoyed this video, and we hope you enjoyed the rest of this 2020 French Open.